Hello, and finally a new plugin from FabFilter. Pro-C3, the compressor, continuance of their compressor, the Pro-C, Pro-C2, now Pro-C3, is out. And there are new things in it, and I just wanted to check out what's new. And I know they always come out with great stuff. I know that it's, for me at least, almost impossible to stay in the previous version of the plugin. So let's see if the additions justify the update. The most notable things that are new is the new modes for the compressor. So all of these just make the behavior of the compressor different. So they change the attack and release program dependency, how they actually react to the signal, and that really changes the character of the compression. So you could say that you have more than just one compressor inside this C3. Now, amongst other things, alongside the new modes, we do have some saturation here, so tube, diode, and bright. So those all have the drive setting and they can be pre or post compression. I've plugged this into Plugin Doctor and none of those gave me any kind of a different result. Maybe because I was testing them in Plugin Doctor on a sine wave, so maybe they really do have something different, but I wasn't able to see that. Now, alongside those changes, having those happen, we have something very new. Now in the sidechain area, we have way more of these points that we can add. So it's like a Pro-Q EQ down here. And you can see that each one of these filter points can actually be made to be any kind of filter types. And alongside the flat tilts and whatnot, we also have an all-pass filter. Actually, I went through the plugin a little bit before I started the video, and I saw this used in many of the presets for like mastering and stuff. So they're using the all-pass filter in this sidechain area. So alongside having way more filter points and different filters, basically a Pro-Q 3, I guess, in this area, you also have different modes for the sidechain. So it can be internal or external, like it used to be. But now you also have the host sync. Now the sidechain is being produced by an automated pulse. And this is like so cool because you can now do sidechaining using Pro-C3, and the trigger is not the kick drum that you need to send there or a pulse you need to invent. This just actually sends a steady pulse at whatever timing you want. And you can also decide on the length of that pulse, you see, so I can elongate how long the pulse basically is and how long it's holding the compression down. That actually helps you shape it better. Like, it's still not something like an LFO tool where you actually draw the envelope that repeats itself all the time. But it's quite nice, something introduced into the compressor that actually helps you use this compressor without sending any external sidechain input that is that simple. Next is going to be the MIDI. So you can trigger the sidechain of this compressor using MIDI notes. So you could basically send MIDI notes to trigger the compression. I mean, I could just think of a couple of examples in my head, like having a more complex rhythm where you want to send specific things that you want to trigger the compression, but exactly without reflecting on the amplitude of such signals. Maybe you have a more complex kick and snare combination that you want to trigger the compression with, but maybe those are not always the same. Maybe you're not dealing with electronic music. And even if they are, they're not triggering the compression in the same way. So here comes the MIDI to the rescue. So you can trigger it with MIDI, but this is just off the top of my head. I guess there are so many amazing reasons why you would want to have this. And I'm sure that now that it's there, people are going to think of so many more. Aside of that, what else is new? I didn't see so many things, so many other things that are new alongside what I've just said. So let's try it out on a real world example. So I'm just going to play a song, of course, electronic music, and let's see what this is going to sound like. I'm going to play a busy part of the song. So to try that out, let's do some internal. And yeah, let's try some of these new vintage Vari Mu optical electric. Now. So I'm trying this with a really fast attack just to see what it's like when it catches the transients and not just lets them through. So we already had the classic and the opto. Let's see what else is new here, punch upward TTM. So kind of upward compression as well, as is quite wild. So yeah, let's not do so much of that, but this is quite cool. Look at that. Let's try the mix. It's really quite aggressive about bringing up the quiet part of the, the low level signal. Imagine this with some tube drive. Let's try both of these. Not so much of a rate. This could be like really, really useful if it was not so potent, so to speak, if it was not so strong. Not bad. Actually, I like this one the best. Let's see about the upward compression. So this is only the upward compression, nothing else. Great. And the other one was the combination. So we had the upward and the downward. Of course, this is really aggressive. So I would never do this as much, but I really want to hear the effect, really, really pronounced. This would be horrible having a breakdown that would become super loud. You see? Just a tiny bit of that. And usually this upward compression is applied in really, really small ratios. I mean, for any kind of a sane effect. And about the drive, I have to try it out on many more different sources, so to speak. not so much knee. Why is this happening? Maybe because of that? Yeah, because of the drive. Of course, stupid. Actually, I like the low part of this kick drum being controlled. I think it's just jumping out too much. But this is really nice. I can see this becoming a really useful tool for me. Of course, I'll have to know more about how to use it better. You know, which one of these sounds in which way. And you can always try them out on different things. But this is so many different like modes for this. It's amazing. Okay, I'm not gonna repeat myself and say it's really nice again. I really like their products. I really like Pro-C2 as well. So this is a really nice addition. A versatile compressor becoming even more versatile, giving you so many of these features expanded, if nothing else. And the additional saturation, which kind of reminds of the one in Pro Q4, being added to Pro Q4. And I'd like to try some of the, let's say, presets that people made. It's just presets for compression. It actually, some of the settings actually do work sometimes. You just try them out and see how much you have to adjust the threshold and see what happens. But you see, this is what I'm talking about. This is like an all-pass filter. You see, so an all-pass filter, really tight with Q, and it's like flipping the phase right here in the, what is that, 4.5 kilohertz. That's doing what? Like, I don't know. Maybe that actually happens in a hardware device. That's why they did it. Flipping the phase of something so high, like, does this really affect the way it's triggering the detection circuit? Like, does it really matter? Yeah, if anybody knows why that is so effective, please let me know in the comments. I'd be thrilled to know, to learn about it. I can understand how it could have some effect if it was happening in the low frequencies, but like in the highs, nah, not really sure. going a little bit off the mid to compress the side, yeah, I get it. Like, it doesn't work for me in this song, but I get the presets. As much as I know from theory, like what you could do with this all-pass filter, you could control the way it reacts to the impact of the kick drum, especially in music like this, in melodic techno and like psytrance. If you do a high cut like this, it completely disregards the lowest of the frequencies. Yeah, so it's reacting less, at least, to the sub. And if you don't do that, but you try to use an all pass to somehow skew the timing of the kick and the bass harmonics, like the way it reacts to the one and the other, this all-pass filter is basically going to introduce a time delay for a part of the signal. So this part of the signal is going to be later than the part before. So that means that basically one of those is going to trigger the sidechain sooner than the other. Yeah, so it's going to have like a different musical effect on the way that the compression is being triggered by those. So especially in those kind of kick and bass, like rolling basses. And honestly, that's a thing you have to experiment with. Like, I'd have to try it out. I haven't had a chance to use something like this. Of course, you could have done this by, duplicating a signal, putting an all-pass filter onto one of those and using it as a sidechain input for a compressor. There is a way to do this before this happened with Pro-C 3. It makes it much easier for you to experiment with an all-pass filter in your sidechain part of the signal and see how smearing the time of the signal or some harmonics is going to affect the triggering. So, yeah, maybe this is something that will help the compression in rolling bass genres of music, psytrance, melodic techno, stuff that has that kind of bass. If you do, or you hate my glasses, say something in the comments. If you like the video, give it a like. And if you don't know what I'm talking about half the time, well, a course that's 40 plus hours long and thanks to 11.org, completely free, is linked in the description. And I'll see you in the next video. Subscribe and bye.